Good morning, everyone. Once again, I'm back with machine learning's lecture number 14, where I'm going to start up with another classification algorithm, which is called support vector machine or SVM. It is a very popular algorithm, so stay tuned with me because I'm going to cover up the concepts related to support vector machine today in this lecture. So let me tell you what all will be the objectives for this lecture. So these will be the objectives today, that we are going to understand what exactly is support vector machine classification algorithm. What are some of the kernel tricks that are applied for SVM to overcome the drawbacks of SVM? And then how we can prevent overfitting in this model. So with these three objectives, let us just start about the SVM. Now, first of all, what exactly is the need of SVM? See, now, let us just assume that we have a big data. By big data, what do we mean? We have voluminous data that needs a complicated model. And in such kind of model, if you want to classify something, and if you will apply a very naive, a very basic algorithm of Bayesian network, that will prove to be very expensive to you. So what do we need? We need a method which should prove to be very faster and efficient in case of Bayesian in comparison to the Bayesian algorithm. So first of all, what do we need to have is we need to pre-process the input samples, the input data. So instead of trying to predict the answer directly from the raw inputs, we could start by extracting a layer of features. We need to first of all extract the features or attributes of the samples. So it seems sensible if we already know that the certain combination of these input samples would be useful for us. And instead of learning the features, what we can do is we can design them by hand, right? Now, why the hand-coded features are, they are equivalent to a layer of non-linear neurons that do not need to be learned exactly. And if we use a voluminous data of features for a two-class problem, the classes will almost certainly be, they will be able to separate in a linear fashion. So in this case, because it is a big data, the linear separator, can be proven to be very poor in generalization. So even this is one point. So what do we consider here? That doing pre-processing is not the valid one. So it is cheating if we use a carefully designed set of task-specific and hand-coded features and then claim that the learning algorithm solved the whole problem, because exactly it does nothing to it. We have only done all these hand-coded and task-specific, right? So the really hard bit is done by designing the features. And it's not cheating if we learn the non-linear processing. Now, this makes learning much more difficult and it makes it much more interesting as well, like the backpropagation algorithm used in AML. Now, even if we use a very big set of nonlinear features, that is task independent, right? So in this case, support vector machines can be used. They can, help very. They can be very helpful in this case. So, support vector machines has got a very clever way of preventing output this overfitting problem as well. So, this is what we can do using the HVM model. So this is something hierarchy of class model that you are seeing. Here you can see the H1 model, then you have H2, H3, S4. So some model classes can be arranged in a hierarchy of increasing complexity. So here you can see the complexity of H4 is considered to be very high. And how do we pick the best level in the hierarchy for model given a data set? So how do we choose? We want to get a lower error rate on the unseen data. Now, this particular thing is called structural risk minimization. And it would be really helpful if we could get a guarantee of the following form. What? The test error rate should be equal to or less than to the training error rate plus the function, right? Where the function n is size of the training set, h is considered to be the measure of the model complexity, P is considered to be the probability that this bound fails exactly. So we need P to allow for really unlucky test sets. Then we could choose the model complexity, and that minimizes the bound on the test error rate. So now using this and seeing all these things, we come over to a part of support vector machine where we are now seeing that what exactly is support vector machine. So see, in machine learning, support vector machines or support vector networks, which we normally call as SVMs, they are considered to be the supervised learning models with associative learning algorithms that actually analyze data for classification and regression analysis. Developed at AT&T Bell Laboratories by Waldemar Wapnick with colleagues like Bozer and other colleagues like Wapnick, SVMs are one of the most robust prediction methods, being based on statistical learning frameworks or VC theory, proposed by Wapnick and Chernovenics. Right now, given a set of training examples, each marked as belonging to one of the two categories, an SVM training algorithm builds a model that assigns new examples to one category or the other, making it a non-probabilistic binary linear classifier. Although methods such as flat scaling exist to use SVM in a probabilistic classification setting, SVM map training examples to point in space so as to maximize the width of the gap between the two categories. New examples are then mapped into that same space and predicted to belong to a category based on which side of the gap they fall. Now, in addition to performing linear classification, SVMs can efficiently perform a non-linear classification using what is called the kernel trick, implicitly mapping their inputs into high dimensional feature space. Now, when the data are unlabeled, supervised learning is not possible because we have seen this thing that for supervised learning algorithm, your machine should always know in prior that what exactly are the labels in which it is going to classify the coming input vectors, right? So, because it is not possible and it is an unsupervised approach which is required for this, so this attempts to find natural clustering of the data to groups and then map new data to these formed groups, right? Now, the support vector clustering algorithm created by Hava Segelman and Valdemar Wapnick applies the statistics of support vectors developed in the support vector machine algorithm to categorize unlabeled data and is one of the most widely used clustering algorithms in industrial applications. Now, coming over to the motivation part of SVM, see, classifying data. It is a very common task in machine learning. Now, suppose some given data points each belong to one of the two classes, and the goal is to decide which class a new data point will be in. Now, in the case of support vector machines, a data point is viewed as a p-dimensional vector or a list of p numbers, and we want to know whether we can separate such point with a p minus one dimension hyperplane. Now, this is called linear classifier, right? Now, there are many hyperplanes that might classify the data. One reasonable choice as the best hyperplane is the one that represents the largest separation or margin between the two classes. So, what do? We choose the hyperplane so that the distance from it to the nearest data point on each side is maximized. Now, if such a hyperplane exists, it is known as the maximum margin hyperplane, and the linear classifier it defines is known as the maximum margin classifier, or equivalently, it is called the perceptron of optimal stability. So, this is the motivation part behind support vector machines. Now, let us understand the formal definition of SVM. See, formally, a support vector machine constructs a hyperplane or a set of hyperplanes in a high or infinite dimensional space, which can be used for classification, regression, or other tasks like outliers detection. Intuitively, a good separation is achieved by the hyperplane that has the largest distance to the nearest training data point of any class, so called the functional margin. Since in general, the larger the margin, the lower the generalization of the classifier. Why? Because obviously the line would be able to clear cut classify the two different classes. There would be no confusion in the points that whether a particular point belongs to this class or that class. So that is why the margin is required to be very large. Okay, so the original problem may be stated in a finite dimensional space, and it often happens that the sets to discriminate are only linearly separable in the space. Now, for this reason, it was proposed that the original finite dimension space it can be mapped into a much higher dimensional space, presumably making the separation easier in that space. Now, to keep the computation load reasonable, the mappings used by SVM schemes are designed to ensure that dot products of the pairs of input data vectors may be computed easily in terms of the variables in the original space. By defining them in terms of kernel function like k, x, comma, y selected to suit the problem. So the hyperplanes in the higher dimensional space are defined as the set of points whose dot product with a vector in that space is constant, where such a set of vectors is an orthogonal, right? Orthogonal and thus minimal set of vectors that defines a hyperplane. So the vectors defining the hyperplanes can be chosen to be linear combinations with parameters alpha I of images of feature vectors xi that occur in the database. Now with this choice of hyperplane, the points x in the feature space that are mapped into the hyperplane are defined by the relation summation of I, where alpha I is multiplied with the kernel function k xi comma x, which is equals to constant. So note that here if the k function, if the kernel function becomes small as y grows further away from x, each term in the sum measures the degree of closeness of the test point x to the corresponding database point xi. Now, in this way, the sum of kernels above can be used to measure the relative nearness of each test point to the data points originating in one of the other of the sets to be discriminated. Note that the set of points x mapped into any hyperplane can be quite convoluted as a result, allowing much more complex discrimination between sets that are not convex at all in the original space. So this is what the formal definition of SVM says. So here you see, this is the example of a separating line. The line that maximizes the minimum margin is a good bet. So the model class of hyperplanes with a margin of m has a low VC dimension of if m is big. And the maximum margin separator is determined by a subset of data points. The data points in this subset are called support vectors. It will be useful computationally if only a small fraction of the data points are support vectors, because we use the support vectors to decide which side of the separator a test case is on. So here the support vectors are indicated by the circle. You can see the circles here. So the support vectors are indicated by the circles around it. This is how we show. Now, before moving into the training of linear SVM, let us first of all understand and see what exactly are the applications of SVM, right? Now, see, SVMs, they can be used to solve various real-world problems. SVMs are they are helpful in text and hypertext generation or categorization, as their application can significantly reduce the need for label training instances in both the standard inductive and transductive settings. Right. Now, some methods for shallow semantic parsing are based on support vector machines. Second application of SVMs are classification of images can also be performed using SVMs. Now, experimental results show that SVM achieves significantly higher search accuracy than traditional query refinement schemes after just 3 to 4 rounds of relevance feedback. Now, this is also true for image segmentation systems, including those using a modified version SVM that uses the privileged approach as suggested by Wapnick. Now, even it can be used for the classification of satellite data like SAR data using supervised SVM. Fourth application could be handwritten characters, which can be characterized using support vector machine. And the SVM algorithm, it has been widely applied in the biological and other sciences also. They have been used to classify proteins with up to 90% of the compounds classification or the classified correctly. Permutation tests based on SVM weights have been suggested as a mechanism for interpretation of SVM models. Now, support vector machine weights have also been used to interpret SVM models in the past. Post hoc interpretation of support vector machine models in order to identify features used by the model to make prediction is a relatively new area of research with special significance in the biological sciences. Now we come over to the linear SVM. Now let's say we are given a training data set of n points of the form x1 y1, x2 y through x3 yg. Like we have plotted each and every input data on the xy plane with the coordinates x1 y1, x2 y2, and let's say till x and yn, where yi or y, let's say any arbitrary y are either 1 or minus 1, which indicates that the class to which the points xi belongs, right? Now each xi is a p-dimensional real vector, and we want to find the maximum margin hyperplane that divides the group of points xi for which yi is equals to 1 from the group of points for which yi is equals to minus 1, which is defined so that the distance between the hyperplane and the nearest point xi from either group is maximized. Okay. Now, any hyperplane can be written as the set of points x satisfying the equation which is given by w to the power of t x minus b is equals to 0. This is the definition of hyperplane. I'll tell you in the process how do we write the equation here. So again, I'm repeating the same thing. How do we write a hyperplane? W to the power t into x minus b, which is equals to 0, where what is w? It is the normal vector to the plane, right? Now this is much like Hessian normal form, except that w is not necessarily a unit vector. Okay. Now the parameter b by w determines the offset of the hyperplane from the original or from the origin along the normal vector w. Now see, here when you do such kind of thing in linear SVM, you'll find a hard margin. So let us talk about that what exactly is hard margin here. This is the separator is defined, as I told you, the separator is defined by this. So if w into xc plus b is equals to 0, we say that this is a positive case, and if it is less than 0, we say this is kind of a negative case. So what exactly is a hard margin? Now, if the training data is linearly separable, we can select two parallel hyperplanes that separate the two classes of data so that the distance between them is as large as possible, right? Again, what is hard margin? If the training data is linearly separable, if we can separate our data in a linear fashion, in a linear form, we can select two different hyperplanes that separate the two classes of data so that the distance between them is as much as possible, right? Now the region bounded by these two hyperplanes is called the margin, and the maximum margin hyperplane is that hyperplane that lies halfway between them. Now, with a normalized or a standardized data, these hyperplanes can be described by the equations WTX minus V, which is equal to 1. Anything on or above this boundary is of one class with label 1. And WTX minus B, which is equals to minus 1, is anything on or below this boundary is of the other class with the label minus 1. Okay. Now, geometrically, the distance between these two hyperplane is 2 divided by W. So, to maximize the distance between the planes, we want to minimize W. Now, the distance is computed using the distance from a point to a plane equation. We also have to prevent data points from falling into the margin. So, we add the following constraint for each I, either WTX minus B, which is greater than equals to 1, if yi equals to 1, or WTXi minus B is less than equals to minus 1 if yi equals to minus 1. So these constraints state that each data point must lie on the correct side of the margin. So this finally can be written as yi multiplied by as a whole wtxi minus b, which is greater than equals to 1 for all the i's belonging to from 1 to n. Now we can put this together to get the optimization problem. Now minimize W subject to WTXi minus B greater than equals to 1 for I is equals to 1 to n. Now the W and B that solve the problem determine our classifier, and this is the sign function basically which we use here. Now an important consequence of this geometric description is that the maximum margin hyperplane is completely determined by the xi vector that lie nearest to it. So these xi are called support vectors. An important consequence of this geometric description is that the maximum margin hyperplane is completely determined by those xi and which are lying nearest to them. So this was about the hard margin. Now we move on to the soft margin part. See, to extend SVM to cases in which the data are not linearly separable, the hinge loss function is helpful, which is given by maximum of 0, comma 1 minus yi wtx minus b. Now here you note that yi is the ith target, right? And wtxi minus b is the ith output. So this function is 0 if the constant in 1 is satisfied, or in other words, if xi lies on the correct side of the margin. Now for data on the wrong side of the margin, the function's value is proportional to the distance from the margin. So this is what exactly is about the soft margin. So SVM is giving both of these margins, like you can have hard margins and you can have soft margins. Now what should we do if there is no separating plane? Now in that case, we use a much bigger set of features. Now this looks as if we would make the computation hopelessly slow, but in the next part of the lecture, we'll see how to use a kernel trick to make computation fast, even with a huge number of features. Now, extending the definition of maximum margin to allow non-separating planes, this can be done by using slack variables. Now, what exactly are slack variables? Understand this thing. See, the slack variables are constrained to be non-negative, right? Now, when they are greater than 0, they allow us to cheat by putting the plane closer to the data point than the margin. So we need to minimize the amount of cheating in this case. So this means that we have to pick up a value for lambda, right? Now w dot x plus b plus 1, and here we have taken a slack variable for positive cases. Similarly, we have this for negative cases. You can see this formula here for negative cases as well. So even the slack variables here, we are using these slack variables, which can be helpful for us. see how a slack variable can help you out in solving the problem. This is your slack variable. Here you can see this is how it is helping us out in finding a large margin. So what is the story so far? It says that if we use a large set of non-adaptive features, we can often make the two classes, linearly separable. But if we just fit an old separating plane, it will not generalize well to new cases. Second is that if we fit the separating plane that maximizes the margin, the minimum distance to any of the data points, we'll get much better generalization. Now, intuitively, by maximizing the margin, we are squeezing out all the surplus capacity that came from using a high-dimensional feature space. Now, this can be justified by a whole lot of clever mathematics, which shows that you know the large margin separators have low VC dimension. On models with lower VC dimensions have a smaller gap between the training set and test error rates. So this is a point here. So question comes that why do large margin separators have lower VC dimension? So consider a random set of endpoints that all fit inside a unit hypercube. Now, if the number of dimension is bigger than n minus 2, it is easy to find a separating plane for any labeling of the points. So the fact that there is a separating plane doesn't tell us much. Now, in that case, it's like putting a straight line to two data points, right? But there is unlikely to be separating plane with a margin that is very big. So if we find such a plane, it is unlikely to be a coincidence. So it will probably apply to the test data too, right? Now, how to make a plane curved? Because sometimes you cannot separate the data or the classes in a linear fashion. So in that case, we need a plane curve. So how can we make that? Now, fitting hyperplanes as separators is mathematically easy because the mathematics is linear. But by replacing the raw input variables with a much larger set of features, we get a nice property. What is that? A planar separator in the high dimensional space of the feature vectors is a curved separator in the low dimensional space of the raw input variables. So here in the diagram here, you can see a planar separator in a 20D feature space projected back to the original 2D space. Here you can see the curve, plane curve is here. Now, let us first talk about the non-linear classification. This is what we have understood is the linear classification regarding SVM. So, see, the original maximum margin hyperplane algorithm proposed by Vapnik constructed a linear classifier actually. However, later on, there was a Bozer and Guyon and Vapnik. He suggested that a way to create non-linear classifiers as well by applying the kernel trick. Right now, this is to maximize margin hyperplanes. Now, the resulting algorithm is formally, similar, except that every dot product is replaced by a non-linear kernel function. Now, this allows the algorithm to fit the maximum margin hyperplane in a transformed feature space. The transformation may be nonlinear and that transformed space high dimensional. Although the classifier is a hyperplane in the transformed feature space, it may be nonlinear in the original input space. So it is noteworthy that working in a higher dimensional feature space increases the generalization error of vector machines. Although given enough samples, the algorithm still performs well. So, some of the common kernels include polynomial, which is homogeneous, then polynomial inhomogeneous, then there could be Gaussian radial basis function, there could be hyperbolic tangent. So the kernel is related to the transform, phi xi by the equation k xi vector comma xj vector, which is equals to phi xi vector dot product of phi xj vector. So the value w is also in the transformed space here. So dot products with W for classification can again be computed by the kernel thread, right? Now, how do we calculate compute the SVM classifier? Now, computing the SVM classifier, especially the soft margin, it amounts to minimize an expression of the form like 1 divided by n summation I 1 to n, which is maximum of 0, comma 1 minus yi wtx minus b plus lambda w square. So we focus on the soft margin classifier since, as we have seen earlier, that choosing a sufficiently small value for lambda yields the hard margin classifier for linearly classified input data. So the classical approach, which involves reducing, this equation of classifier to a quadratic programming problem, is coming further. Then more recent approaches such as sub-gradient descent and coordinate descent will be discussed in the later lectures. So we have seen the kernel trick, what exactly the kernel trick achieves here. Now all of the computations that we need to do to find the maximum margin separator can be expressed in terms of scalar products between pairs of data points. Now these scalar products are the only part of computation that depends on the dimensionality of the high dimensional space. Then the kernel trick is just, it is a magical way of doing scalar products as a whole a lot of faster than it is usually possible. This is the final classification rule, which is very simple. Here you can see the classification rule. All the cleverness goes into selecting the support vectors that maximize the margin and, computing the way to use on each support vector. And we also need to choose a good kernel function, and we may need to choose a lambda for dealing with non-separated cases. These are some of the commonly used kernels, as I have told you. Now see, in this you can see this neural network. Now for neural network kernel, there is one hidden unit per support vector. So the process of fitting the maximum margin hyperplane decides how many hidden units to use. Also, it may, violate the Mercer's condition as well. Now, what is the performance? See, support vector machines work very well actually in practice. The user must choose the kernel function and its parameters, but the rest is automatic. So the test performance comes out to be very good. Then they can be expensive in time and space for big data sets. But the computation of the maximum margin hyperplane depends on the square of the number of training cases. And we need to store all the support vectors. Then the SVMs are very good if you have no idea about what structure to impose on the task. And the kernel trick can also be used to do PCA in a much higher dimensional space, thus giving a nonlinear version of PCA in the original space. Now, support vector machines can also be used as perceptrons. They use each training case X to define a feature where K is chosen by the user. Then they do feature selection by picking the support vectors, and they learn how to weight the features by solving a big optimization problem. So SVM is just a very clever way to train standard perceptron. All of the things that a perceptron cannot do cannot be done by SVMs, right? These are the training and the testing data that you can see. So this is all about the support vector machines in today's lecture, and I hope SVMs are clear to you that how SVMs work and what all are the concepts, what is the kernel trick in SVM that helps us in finding a large margin for the classification. So we have seen all these things. I hope this one is clear to you. So now let me quickly share with all of you the uh, MCQs for today. So these are the MCQs for today. Which of the following is correct use of cross validation? Second question says point out the wrong combination we have already seen, and which of the following is a common error measure? So I hope you will be able to answer all these questions correctly. Now let me take you to the next set of questions. So here question number 4 says, which of the following is not a machine learning algorithm? Is it SVG? Is it SVM, random forest, and none of the mentioned? So I think this one is a very simple question, and you'll be able to answer it very correctly. We have seen what all are the types of machine learning algorithms. So just try to answer it correctly. Now let me take you to the next set of questions. Now these are the starting three questions, 5, 6, 7. 5 question says, point out the wrong statement. The ROC curve stands for receiver operating characteristic. Now for time series, data must be in chunks. C option says, random sampling must be done with replacement. And the D option says, none of the above mentioned. So try to answer them quickly. Then question number 6 says, which of the following is a categorical outcome? Is it RMSE? Is it R squared? Is it accuracy, or all of the above mentioned? Now question number 7 says, for the K cross validation, larger K values implies more bias. Is it true or is it false? So quickly try to answer all these three questions. Just think upon it and just try to answer these three questions. So I hope you were able to answer all these three questions. Now let me take you to the last three questions. So here we have question number 8. Which of the following method is used for train controlled resampling? Is it repeated CV? Is it SVM? Is it BAC32? Or none of the above mentioned? Ninth question says, which of the following can be used to create the most common graph types? The Q plot, the quick plot, the plot, or all of them can be used as well. And the 10th question says, for K cross validation, smaller K value implies less variance. Is it true or is it false? So I hope you all will be able to answer such questions here. And that was a easy MCQ that we have seen so far. So quickly, in nutshell, I'm just going to summarize today's lecture 14 about SVM. That support vector machine is one of the most popular supervised learning algorithm which is used for classification as well as regression problem. But primarily, it is used for classification in machine learning. And if we talk about the goal of support vector machine, or the support vector machine algorithm, it is just to create the best line or the decision boundary that can segregate n-dimensional space into classes so that we can easily put the new data point in the correct category in the future. Now the best decision boundary is called a hyperplane. We have seen hyperplane is important in support vector machine, right? Now, support vector machine chooses the extreme points or the vectors that help in creating the hyperplane. Now, these extreme cases are called as support vectors, and hence algorithm is termed as support vector machine. Now, see, SVM can be understood with the example that we have used in the previous classifier. Suppose we see a strange cat that also has some features of dog. So, if we want a model that can accurately identify whether it is a cat or a dog, so such a model can be created by using SVM algorithm. So we will first train our model with lots of images of cats and dogs so that it can learn about different measures of cats and dogs. And then we test it with the strange creator. So as support vector creates a decision boundary between these two data, the cats and the dogs, and choose extreme cases, which are called support vectors. It will see the extreme case of a cat and a dog. On the basis of the support vectors, it will classify it as a cat, right? Now, as I have told you, we have even seen the two types of SPMs. One is called linear SPM, which is used for linearly separable data, which means if a data set can be classified into two classes by using a single straight line, then such data is termed as linearly separable data. And the classifier is used called as linear SPM classifier. Second type of SVM that I have told you and explained you in this lecture is nonlinear SVM, which is used for non-linearly separated data, which means if a data set cannot be classified by using a straight line, then such data is termed as nonlinear data and classifier is used, which is called nonlinear SVM classifier. Now, exactly, we have used the concept of hyperplane here, right? So there can be multiple decision boundaries to segregate the classes in n-dimensional space. But we need to find out the best decision boundary that helps to classify the data points. Now this best boundary is known as the hyperplane of SVM. Now, the the dimensions of the hyperplane depends on the features present in the data set, which means if there are two features, then hyperplane will be a straight line, and if there are three features, then hyperplane will be a two-dimensional plane. So we always create a hyperplane that has a maximum margin, which means that the maximum distance between the data points. Now, uh, according to this, we have already seen what is support vector, which are the data points that are closest to the hyperplane and which affects the position of the hyperplane. Right? So they are called support vector. And since these vectors support the hyperplane, they are called support vectors. So this is all about. the support vector machines for classification algorithms we have seen today. I hope the lecture will be clear to you, and I hope you have, very precisely answered the MCQs today. So, in case if you have any problem related to this, you can, just get back to me on the comment section. You can write your queries there, and I'm going to help you out there also. So, keep watching and stay tuned because I'm coming with some more lectures related to machine learning. It's crucial topic. Thank you so much.